views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
There's been much talk about rent stabilization and rent freezes, but another issue that rarely gets coverage is that of low-income seniors living in the Bronx who are vulnerable to homelessness. I'll tell you more about that on this episode of Perspectives and how one organization is serving those seniors and pioneering a unique homeless program that's in danger of running out of funds. That's up next on Perspectives with yours truly, Darren Hyman.
Let them know. What's on your mind? Let them know. Anything relevant to life, you bring it to the table. Whether you make a move solo or a movement with a stable. No fables, you speak on your decisions. Cause in the long run, it's your voice, your views, your vision. Keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective which shines a light. Cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective? Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective. What's your perspective?
Welcome to another edition of Perspectives. I am Darren Hyman. Of course, we invite you to stay connected to us. Just how do you do that? Well, you can always watch us every week here on BronxNet's Channel 67 for a brand new, fresh episode of Perspectives. Or you can check us out on social media. You can hit us up on Twitter, Facebook, and then also my professional page, Darren C. Hyman. There you can find out about what's happening and what is coming up. And if you got something that you want to share, just do that. And, you know, you might see it right here on Perspectives. We always invite you to do that. As we talk about today on this current edition of Perspectives, the issue of homelessness and really combating it. And we talked in the beginning about how low-income seniors are right there on the borderline and the next in line when it comes to homelessness. And we have a very special guest in the studio who can share a little bit about it. He's the developmental director of BronxWorks, and he's been there since 1995, overseeing BronxWorks fundraising activities, as well as communications, as well as special events. He has a BA in economics from Fordham University, an MA in economics from Long Island University. I'm finding out some new stuff today. And guess what? Prior to joining BronxWorks, he's a researcher and economist with the U.S. Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. And he's a very special guest. We've had him here on the show several times, and we welcome now back to the studio Ken Smalls, the developmental director at BronxWorks. And man, we've known each other for years. I was finding out new stuff today.
Darren, you had to go back 35 years?
Well, look at how long, listen, had to go back 35 years. And if the truth be told, we've been doing this here for more than 20 years here on
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, you've been, yeah, because we were you were on BXNY and
so going back quite a while.
That's 20-something years, but good to have you.
Always,
Listen,
always, always.
And it seems like every time we get together, something new is really on the rise.
New and critical.
New and critical on the rise. And we talked about services and we talked about budget cuts and stuff like that. But take a look at homelessness now. And we're taking a look at low-income seniors.
In particular.
And they're the most vulnerable now in our borough at the risk of homelessness. Let's talk about that.
Well, one of the things that we discovered when we engaged Bronx Housing Court some years ago was that Bronx Housing Court was getting a large number of older adults coming to court, but not having anyone to advocate for them, not having anybody to help them navigate the Bronx Housing Court system. And back in 2010, 2011, the chief administrative judge at the time, Jaya Madhavan, said, we need to do something about this. Lawyers, or I should say, landlords have lawyers, but you've got large numbers of seniors who are in housing court and have no one to advocate for them, no one to help them navigate this very Byzantine, very challenging housing court process. So BronxWorks has had a number of eviction prevention programs through the years. We've had a good relationship with Bronx Housing Court. And this chief administrative judge thought that the time was appropriate for there to be some services that targeted seniors and specifically focused on helping them get through the housing court system. And that's how the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Project got started.
And so you got the SHPP, or the Senior Homelessness Prevention Project. For somebody out there watching, and even for myself, right?
Sure.
What are some of the challenges that these seniors face, particularly when it comes to housing court?
Well, one of the biggest challenges that seniors face more often than not is the fact that literacy is a concern. And oftentimes seniors will get notices in the mail, they'll get something put under their door, and whether English is their first language or Spanish or some other language is their first language, literacy is often a major concern. And so we've had situations where, yes, seniors will get court notices, but because they have very limited literacy proficiency, they won't realize the importance of it. And sometimes even when they do recognize the importance, oftentimes seniors will, quite frankly, panic and feel as if they don't know where to turn, they don't have an advocate, they don't know where to go. So as a result, many times they wind up not doing anything. And as a result of not doing anything, the situation winds up compounding itself and getting worse as opposed to getting better.
Yeah, and I can easily see that happening because either you become frustrated with the process, don't know the process, become set, and that process will still take effect.
Oh yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, and oftentimes what happens is if you ignore one notice, the notices begin to pile up, the arrears begin to pile up, and what may start as being a rather small amount in terms of arrears, because usually this is the issue, rent arrears. The arrearages amount ends up becoming very large and just makes things even more challenging when it comes to the senior, when that senior finally does go to court and finally does seek assistance.
Can you give me an idea of like kind of numbers that you see in terms of the people that you've been working with and servicing?
Numbers in terms of arrears?
In terms of clients that you see in
over the past 2 years, this particular program has focused on helping about 420 seniors get through Bronx Housing Court. And the program is staffed by an intake worker and 2 housing specialists. So essentially, we've got 3 people on the ground, physically in housing court, working with seniors to help them get through the housing court proceedings process. And sometimes that can really be challenging because seniors may go to the wrong part of the court or they may get lost in the elevator shuffle, things of that sort. But what we find is we're able to give them a guiding hand, we're able to be very supportive. We operate at their pace as opposed to trying to operate at a breakneck pace. And I think for a lot of seniors, that extra hand-holding is what really makes this particular program important. 420
people is the number that you gave. That's a major number when you talk about seniors in the senior population. How bad is this problem, and are we really like not really addressing it, putting a real spotlight here?
Well, there's a couple of nuances to this issue. One is in terms of housing court. Housing court is not permitted to keep demographic specific data. So what we end up getting is the judge, a particular judge in housing court, may perceive a senior or may perceive a person to be a senior. And by senior, we mean anyone who's 60 years of age or over. And there are a few instances where a person may actually be 55 who ends up getting referred to us, and we will refer that person to another Bronx Works program or to another program in Bronx Housing or another program that we have in housing court. The number in some respects is probably understated because I think, and my colleagues who work in the courts thinks that there is more demand. The problem is we have a finite number of staff. The housing court judges realize that, so I think sometimes they try to do their best in terms of using discretion when making referrals. But if we had additional staff, we could probably handle easily 1.5 to 2 times the load of seniors that we're currently handling.
Wow. Let me take a quick break and come back more with Ken Small, Developmental Director at BronxWorks. We'll be right back right after this.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
I'm only 17, but I know about investing. Believe in something, buy shares in it, watch it grow. So, what if you could invest in the future? The future of kids, like a stock. Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. I could be one of the first college graduates from my family, the first philanthropist from my neighborhood. And if I'm the first, then maybe there's a second and a third. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow. My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
There's one thing you can never have sex without.
It's not something you buy.
Or something you take.
In fact, there's only one way to get it.
It has to be given to you, freely.
It's consent.
Because sex without it isn't sex.
It's rape. Consent.
If you don't get it, you don't get it. It's on us to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Continuing our conversation with Ken Small, Developmental Director for BronxWorks, talking about the homeless prevention program that's specifically for seniors. And it's actually in danger of running out of funds because, as we were talking a little bit in the break, and share a little bit about this because it's privately funded.
Primarily privately funded at this point. And just to go back in time, Darren, a foundation that's based in Great Britain, the Oak Foundation, first funded this project as an initial very small scale pilot back in 2011. They supported us for a year. They liked what we were doing. We said to them that we really would like to do something that's larger in scale. Simply having one person in housing court working with dozens of seniors is not enough. The foundation said, yes, we'll support you, we'll provide you with a multi-year grant, and the multi-year grant ended up being a 3-year grant, which is now on the verge, or now at the point of expiration. The expectation all along was that we would at some point be able to secure other funding, in particular public funding, for an initiative like this. The idea is that we wanted to institutionalize this so that this would not just be something that was funded for a couple of years, but something that would be funded as long as there was demand for it. And as long as there are seniors in the Bronx, and as long as there are low-income seniors who have trouble navigating housing court, a program of this sort will be necessary.
Yeah. It didn't skip over me that you said that you got funded by Great Britain for a program in the Bronx. How does that happen?
Well, the Oak Foundation is a very interesting foundation because they see the homelessness issue not only as an issue that affects them in Great Britain, but they also have a concern about things that take place in this country. And homelessness is a priority that they have, and they're looking for models that could work here, that could work in Great Britain, that could possibly be replicated in other parts of the world. So it seems a little quirky, but they definitely have this as a priority. And they're looking at this effort as perhaps an effort that not only has implications for here in the Bronx, but in other parts of the country and perhaps other parts of the world.
So as you're looking to try to get some help and really get some funding here, obviously elected officials have to be could be a great help in that. Other people can be. What's it been like, and what's that conversation piece been like, given the fact that we have this tremendous need, and seniors really run the risk of actually being on the street or actually in a homeless shelter. It should wave a red flag for a lot of our electeds.
We have been fortunate in a number of regards. One is we've been able to generate some some private funding to support the program over the course of the last 2 years. So in addition to the Oak Foundation, we've been able to secure foundation support from other sources. And we've been able to secure some private support from one of the financial institutions. We have, for the past 2 years, the current year and in 2016, we've made a concerted effort to seek public funding, in particular through the city government. So we have sought Last year, we sought what's called special initiative funding in conjunction with the City Council. We had a number of what we thought were very fruitful, very productive conversations with many of the members of the Bronx delegation of the City Council. And the folks last year were very candid with us. They said to us that 2016 was not necessarily a year where there would be a lot of new initiatives that would be entertained. So that was last year. Fast forward to this year, we've again had some very, very good conversations with members of the Bronx delegation. We are having some conversations with Speaker Mark Viverito. We're very encouraged by what we have heard thus far, but at this point there has not been, if you will, a firm financial commitment. Everyone is aware of the need. Everyone is aware of the fact that seniors are extremely vulnerable to homelessness, but we have not yet had a commitment signed, sealed, and delivered.
So over the past 5 years, how would you assess the impact that you guys have been making in terms of doing this work? Because it's a very, you're dealing with the most vulnerable, among the most vulnerable populations we have.
Yeah. Well, over the last 5 years, we've engaged upwards of 500 seniors, and over 90% of those seniors remain in the housing that they were in at the time that they entered housing court. So we see the program as being very, very successful in that regard. We also see the program as being successful in the sense that it's been able to connect seniors to other resources. So one of the things that we found was many of the seniors aren't aware of a program called the Senior Citizens Rent Increase Exemption Program, which essentially puts a cap on the amount of rent that seniors have to pay. And in spite of the fact that this program has been around for a number of years, for whatever reason, a lot of seniors weren't aware of it. So when seniors engage us through the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Program, if they have not yet already secured this particular benefit, we see to it that they secure it. We also see to it that if they need health insurance, that they get health insurance. If they're eligible for food stamps, that they secure food stamps. If there are other benefits or other entitlements that are out there that'll help boost their incomes, we'll see to it through this program that they get them.
So give me a little bit about how you guys compare to other housing court, eviction, and homeless prevention programs across the city. There's a distinction, of course.
Well, I think the biggest distinction is this is the only program that is seniors specific. There are other programs that are out there that use what are called non-lawyer advocates to work on behalf of tenants, but none of them specifically target seniors. And we have found that as a result of this particular effort, that there are special needs that seniors have. Seniors need a little more hand-holding. Sometimes they need a little more in the way of folks being able to explain things to them. They can sometimes present their own challenges around wanting to continue to be independent and sometimes being reluctant to embrace assistance from others. So we see this project as a means that really targets them and really caters to them and looks at seniors as a very distinct but also a population that has some formidable needs.
Still, we've got Ken Small here with us, Developmental Director for BronxWorks, talking about the Senior Homelessness Prevention Program that is taking place out of his building, and a program that's doing some great work, but also in danger of running out of possible funds for the program. And we'll talk a little bit more about the program and where we're going from here right after this.
What if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change. A whole new kind of investment called Better Futures. When you invest, it helps kids go to college. Believe in us, invest in us, watch us grow.
My name is Sydney, and I'm your dividend.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs, And you learned how to not ignore yours. I discovered how to make healthier meals, and I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
Barry, time is running out. According to my calculations, 1 in 5 kids in America struggles with hunger. How can so many children face hunger when there's more than enough food to feed them all? You're right, Barry. We can help solve hunger by teaming up with Feeding America to get food to hungry kids in communities across the country.
Help Flint and the Feeding America network of food banks get food to the people who need it in your community. Find your local Feeding America food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Together, we're Feeding America.
Back here on Perspectives, our guest Ken Small talking about the homeless problem that we have here in the city, particularly as it relates to seniors. And from your boots on the ground work, when you look at this particular issue,
right,
getting better or worse?
I would say that it's really very, very hard to tell. And I say that again because when it comes to some of the data sources, particularly in terms of things like Bronx Housing Court, there's not data that specifically relates to seniors. There are other data sets that suggest that seniors, for a number of reasons, are particularly vulnerable. One of the reasons obviously being most seniors are retired, they're living off of limited incomes, and therefore it's very, very difficult for them to deal with things like rent increases. Also, when you take a look at New York City in general, there's a lot that's been going on in terms of the housing situation in other boroughs, Manhattan and Brooklyn in particular, that we believe in some ways are beginning to impact what's happening here in the Bronx. And in fact, one of the things we noticed when we started looking at data by zip code for the Seniors Homelessness Prevention Project is there seems to be a growing number of seniors who are in the program who come from, say, the 10468 zip code. And that's a zip code that oftentimes people don't necessarily associate with being a low-income community.
Right.
And we think a lot of that has to do with some of the changes in housing patterns in Manhattan, with folks literally coming across the river from northern Manhattan seeking housing here in the Bronx, and seniors being impacted because even though in many cases the seniors have been very stable, very good tenants, the landlords sometimes are now in a situation, in a position where they may have tenants who are or potential tenants who are in a position to pay more income. So there are some economic forces like that that are taking place in some parts of the Bronx that may be influencing seniors ending up in housing court. And I think there's likely to be more of that taking place as the rent situation in New York City overall continues to change.
Getting up towards the end of the wire, talk about Bronx Works and things you got happening. What's coming up down the pipe?
Well, one of the things in terms of this particular effort is we do have an online fundraising effort for this. So yes, we are of course looking to secure funding via the City Council, but for individuals who want to make a dent and want to be supportive of this effort, those individuals can go to our website. There's a page on our website where they can obtain additional information related to the program. And if they want to make a contribution, they can make a contribution.
That's good. And people have an opportunity to really tap in. And so you got to keep us updated in terms of what's happening here with the funding for this, because certainly our seniors are probably one of the most, like you said, the most valuable and vulnerable.
Valuable and vulnerable,
you know, population that's out there, and having access to resources for them is definitely important. From your look at the court system, is it pretty bogged up with a lot of court cases with seniors?
There's a good number of seniors in court. I think the real struggle for seniors when they are in court is having advocates, having resources to allow them to effectively navigate the court system. Bronx Housing Court from the outset has been very supportive of this effort, and the housing court judges continue to be supportive of it.
Yeah, and I hope our viewers who are watching now have seen there's a lot that goes on, particularly when it comes to the homeless population in New York City. But as we highlighted on this particular show, the need to really pay attention to senior homelessness, or those who are pretty much on the verge of becoming homeless simply by their situation. And all it takes is, you know, we say you're one. The old saying used to be you're 1 or 2 checks away from homelessness, but when you're in the life of a senior, I mean, it's literally from week to week.
What we find oftentimes is many of the seniors who end up in Bronx Housing Court, they are there because there's been a crisis. It could be a personal crisis. It could be a crisis that's 1 or 2 persons away from them. So oftentimes seniors have companions, loved ones who pass away. Sometimes they have children or grandchildren who have financial issues. They want to help. Oftentimes they don't have a lot of resources, and the resources that end up being used are their rent resources. Sometimes seniors have health issues that aren't covered by whatever health insurance they have. As a result, the rent that they have becomes the backup.
So for people who want more information, please get in touch with Ken Small. He's Developmental Director at BronxWorks. And Ken, once again, it's always good to have you here on the show and good to have you sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty. Well, listen, we're about out of time here on Perspectives, but let me allow you just a few seconds to share this perspective. When we talk about seniors, obviously, as we said, they're valuable and they're also vulnerable. And to look at the problem in New York City and the rising rate of homelessness and how many seniors are attached to that is extremely alarming. So whatever we could do in terms of supporting programs and or services that can help to benefit the most vulnerable and the most valuable, we ought to do that. And so, of course, here on this show, we'll continue to follow up and let you know exactly what happens. As we said, they've got a grant that's from Great Britain to actually help them to be able to do the work. But as we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, that grant is running out, and now time is of the essence to see whether or not there could actually be some assistance in helping them out. So stay tuned to us here at Perspectives. We'll continue to update this issue, this very serious issue, and let you know how things are working out. For all of us here on the set of the show, I'm Darren Hyman. I want to say thanks for watching. Until the next time we meet, stay safe, share your perspective with somebody else. It just might make a difference in someone else's life. Take care.
Your voice, your views, your vision, keeping it real with many messages for you to know. This ain't radio, but DJ runs the show. Entertainment, he rocks it. Politics, he locks it. The host with the most would handle any topic. Don't forget to share your perspective with shines of light, cause it might make a difference in someone else's life. What's your perspective? Express what's in your heart and your mind. Share your perspective. What's your perspective? Let them know.
Welcome, everybody. We are open. I'm the Dr. Bob Lee from 107.5 WBLS. You can catch me on there each and every night right after the Quiet Storm. You can catch me right here on Open, 10 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. Let's just call it on the 10s and then just keep it tuned. And we got you covered like a blanket, okay? I'm out in the community and we're all over the place because we are now open.